Welcome to the Action Lab live. I am your co-host, Torlando Hakes. With me is Chris Watson. This is the Action Lab. This is the place where sales and marketing unite. This is the place where we end the battle, where we close the divide, where we overcome our beef, and we start working together. It's a new year. It is a new year. How you feeling, Chris?
Feeling great, man. It's it's the first year that I decided to say no to any goals, to any pressure. So I'm just setting myself micro goals. Like, how can I win
Okay.
today? How can
Yeah.
I win today? What's the next step? And I think it's very similar to the opposite that's happening with sales and marketing. That the relationship doesn't crumble, the divide doesn't grow big because of one thing. It's
Mm-hmm.
small increments. It's these micro battles, these micro moments that they have failed in alignment. That eventually that alignment gets so bad that the bridge collapses. So
Yeah.
what the Action Lab's trying to do is we're trying to provide an opportunity to rebuild that bridge, an opportunity to come together and sign the treaty, so to speak.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Goal setting is I mean it's definitely something that is always on the minds of sales and marketers, and sometimes it creates some pretty toxic habits. Sometimes it can really um stretch out the divide, make it worse. But you have to measure things. Where performance is measured, performance is approved. What I like about what you're saying here is that we're turning this on our head, and what we're really saying is that, look, the goal, oftentimes the goal, we think it's this outcome, and the outcome isn't always in our control. But what is in our control are the small habits that we stack up every single day, the small little things that we could do, the inputs. Too many people look at goal setting and they look at the output, what happens on the outside, what happens as the result. Not enough people look at the inputs, and the inputs are what's in our control. Very, very interesting stuff. But today we are going to talk about overcoming objections. Whose job is it to overcome objections? Where does it fit in marketing? Why is it so heavily put upon sales? What do we do when our character objects the call to adventure? That's the question of the day. What are your thoughts, Chris?
Well, I think, as I got an opportunity about a month ago to look at a company, a large company, we'd all know them. I got to look at their sales playbook. And
Mm-hmm.
in the playbook, it literally had a manual, let's call it.
Mm-hmm.
If they object here, you can say this. If it's like a decision tree. If they
Mm-hmm.
object
Mm-hmm.
here, you can do this. And I'm not saying I'm not going to have an opinion whether I'm a fan or not a fan. That isn't the way I do it,
Mm-hmm.
because as a storyteller, I believe that objections occur um, because the individual I'm talking to, the prospect, the future customer, they lack context, and when they lack context for a salesperson, that's when they object.
Mm.
My belief is that on the other hand is that if we're getting a lot of objections as an organization, we lack context into our prospects world, into their organization, into their daily life, into, no pun intended, their goals, whether
Mm-hmm.
that's be a micro goal that has a major macro outcome, or whether that just be a I need to solve this little problem right here, and then I can go and pursue everything else that I need. So
Right.
I'm a context guy. I think, walking into episode 5 of Squid Game, it would confuse a lot of people, and you might
Mm-hmm.
object. Why are these people playing this game? I don't understand it. What's going on? And then when you hear the backstory of trying to save the daughter, and I know I'm giving it all away here, but
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
money and all those things, the context allows you to then say, okay, I want to know more.
Yeah.
I want to justify it a little bit better.
Yeah. You know what? I think another element of calls to, or the objecting the call, is an underlying fear.
Mm-hmm.
I think that comes into play often. Fear of, is this product going to work for my company? Is it going to help me look good in front of my boss? Is it going to help me make money? Is it going to be too hard to implement?
Mhm.
Um, you know, I think lack of context, you know, amplifies fear for
Yep.
one. But where I see, people going wrong, and at least where I've gone wrong myself, is that when their objections, sometimes they can come off as a little combative, and that can cause me into a little bit of a spiral of, a little panic. And that's the worst thing that you can do when you hear an objection to the call. The worst thing you could do is panic, because when you panic, that means that you're not sure that that your solution can solve their problem. And I feel like when we're desperate for a sale, when we aren't confident in our product, that's when the panic loses. That's where we lose, and we aren't able to come up with a solution that will help them cross the threshold into our special world. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think to tack on to that, maybe just kind of a point two, so to speak, would be we have to understand that our buyers are our prospects are probably the most educated, and I put educated in quotes because they
Mm-hmm.
think they're educated, um, the most educated buyers that we have ever seen
Mm-hmm.
because we're living in the digital information world. It takes 4 clicks to type in alternative product to
Mm-hmm.
Calendly or
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
event planning company or sales training. I mean, it takes 2 seconds to go and look at that and read it. And quite frankly, I think what's happened is because of the information overload, we now are seeing referrals be at the highest point because I would rather, instead of worry about, is this a trusted source? Did they get paid? Is this really the top 10 companies to whatever? I'm going to go call my buddy Torlando and say, hey, man, where can I get the best turkey tenderloin ever in the
Mm-hmm.
entire world? So
Mm-hmm.
I think we have to consider that because our buyer either thinks they're educated or feels educated, that when we go in to try to combat conflict,
Mm-hmm.
we actually are going to lose because there's a bit of confidence that, at least is what I'm experiencing with most of my prospects. Whereas before, there was a little more of curiosity. Well, what do you mean? I've never heard of this before. Oh, yeah, I've heard of you guys. We already have something in place that does that exact thing. Well, then what
Mm-hmm.
do I do with that? And
Mm-hmm.
so I think we have to get to a place to understand that and I'll say this probably for marketing and sales, you can agree to marketing or not, is that salespeople are paying for the sins of all the other cruddy salespeople and companies before you.
Oh,
And you need
sure.
to understand that. So anytime it's like a relationship, if this person's been cheated on 5 times, then their assumption is, or their feeling is, can I trust you? Will you cheat
Mm-hmm.
just like the other five have? And so I think we need to consider all of those things when we're thinking about when this objection is coming up. We need to we need to investigate deeper. We need to be
Yeah.
curious. Oh, why would you say that? And why do you feel that way? And
Mm-hmm.
tell me more. Like I just want to understand why this isn't a good fit. Cause I really thought your organization had this, and that. And you were trying to fight for our company, you're trying to fight the internal battle between marketing and sales. So the Action Lab feels like a really great bridge builder placement for your people. Help me
Mm-hmm.
understand. Like, if your alignment's awesome, I need to learn from you. Those are kind of some of the things that I like to do during the objections, is just to basically say, okay, I'm going to flip the script and I'll become the curious one.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
want to know why this is a big no, because maybe I failed, maybe I'm wrong. And then
Yeah.
now this person that thinks they're educated, feels confident in why they're saying no, they're in power now. They have a little bit of like, let me tell you, let me tell you why it wouldn't work for us. And let me tell you how great we are at marketing and sales alignment or whatever it might be.
Yeah. Yeah, I think when I get to that point, because you have to understand that you're always going to get into an objection conversation. You're always going to get that, and You actually I think that you want to get there as soon as possible,
Mhm.
because you don't wanna waste anybody's time. You don't wanna waste your time, you don't wanna waste their time. The way that you handle it the best, I think, comes down to something that I've really learned from, Blair Ains, who wrote the sales, oh, what's it called? The Sales Manifesto. And he talks a lot about selectivity.
Mm.
The idea that when we are selective, when we are completely okay and fine with the idea that this prospective buyer may not be the best customer for us, we might not want them as a customer. When you truly understand and believe that, when you kind of let go of the anxiety that comes with losing a sale or being rejected, you really start to embody that position of guide and mentor. One of the things that I love saying to people when we're in this period of identifying objections is, well, maybe our product won't work for you. There's something about that is so clarifying to people, because what it says that we're not necessarily going to bend to everything that you dictate. That creates a much better customer. Because if you do, I mean, we advocate for on the Action Lab, we advocate for talking to, that cross section of marketing and sales all the time. But
Mhm.
sales also has to talk to the customer success team, the service team. They have to understand what's going on. And if you are sending people, if you're sending customers to the customer success team who are going to be a huge pain in the ass,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Nobody's gonna like the sales that you're coming up with, right? Nobody's
Yeah.
gonna like your customers, and it usually comes because you're not realistic about their objections. You're over promising and you're going to underdeliver. We can't do that. You have to be realistic and you have to be willing to say, well, maybe this isn't the product for you. But if you like the other stuff that we have to offer, and that's worth letting go of this one thing, and
Mhm.
maybe we can find a better workaround, or maybe we can live without it, and the other stuff that we have to offer is worth it, then maybe that objection doesn't matter as much. It's hard to have a panacea of a product, right? Nobody has one.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know why, but I think as as I train and work with and spend time with salespeople, I just try to remind them. I'll give you a really easy example. So sometimes I'll have a student or a client, and they'll send me an email, and they'll be like, "Hey, what do you think about this email that I'm getting ready to send out?" And it's 2.5 paragraphs, and so I don't even read it. I just send an email
Mhm,
back, and I just ask one question. I'm like, if I sent you this email and I worked at and I come up with an industry similar to the industry they're trying to pitch,
mhm,
and I just sent this cold to you in the 150 emails you get a day, tell me, would you take the time to read it? That's all I ask.
mhm,
Because I think as salespeople, we somehow forget how we buy
mm,
and
mhm,
why we object, and then how do we feel when we object, and they like, okay, I'm letting the bulls out, I'm coming at you really hard now because you objected, that it almost makes you feel more turned off to say, yeah, I feel like you just, because I think when the objection happens, it's really important. When the objection happens is actually when I get to see who you are.
mhm,
Are you desperate? Are you rude? Are you
mm, mhm,
confrontational? Or
mhm,
are you confident? Are you
mhm,
empathetic? Are you who I want to partner with? And I think we fail to think about how we buy, because I know when I buy, that when I say, "Yeah, I don't know that I can afford that," or "You know what, I was really looking for something that does this," that when they come at me guns a-blazing, I'm turned off. I'm like, yeah, you know what? Thanks so much for your time, and I'm out. I'm always polite, but I just don't want to do business with them, because here's what I think about. If anything goes wrong with the product or I'm dissatisfied, I've got to work with the objection, post objection person, not the
mhm.
pre objection person,
Right.
because I know I feel like you just revealed who you really are. And I,
Totally.
I know that may not be fair, But in my experience and in my feeling, and even in my own Chris Watson world where that's the way I handled objections, it was like pre Chris, hey, Torlando, hello, man. I think we got a great
Mhm.
product for you. And yeah, Chris, I don't know if it's really going to fit for you. Come on, man. It's going to fit for you. Like, you got to, and it's like, well, who's Jekyll and Hyde,
Mhm.
during the objection? So I think it's important to remember how you buy.
Right.
Remember when you bought that it made it easy because marketing did a great machine is proving to you contextually, we know your world, so that when
Mhm.
sales talk to you, hey, man, we know exactly what you're going through. We know your world, and it's a much easier conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think that that brings up, what is marketing's role, in overcoming objections. And I have to say that uh content is the answer. It's just making that content really accessible. I One of my huge goals at Periodic has been to speed up the sales cycle. When I got here, and we're an enterprise product, and when I got here, uh, our sales cycle was quite long. I mean, I looked at the previous two customers. One took a year to close, the other took 4 months. And I thought to myself, my goodness, if I don't make a sale in 4 months, I don't know if I'm going to be here. That was like, I was like, do you guys understand that the sales cycle is very long here, right? That was my first, concern. And so I thought to myself, how can I speed this up? Well, the benefit to being able to control marketing and sales at a startup company is that you can, I mean, you got control over the whole process. And so my goal has always been to speed up that sale. The last sale, that I closed, took about 45 minutes. How do you go from a year sales cycle to 45 minutes? It's not that easy. But what I did is I used a lot of video, and I used a lot of
Mm,
sequencing and automated triggers, so that when somebody got into the funnel, when they booked an appointment, they would immediately get sent videos of all of the common objections, all of the things that people usually want to see, the demo itself, so that I'm not just going on and doing a pre-wrote demo and coming out like a robot all the time. Having my marketing do the job of selling the product, pitching the product, educating the buyer on what the product is, how it's going to solve their problems. What that allows me to do now is just to have a conversation where I'm asking questions. What are you trying to accomplish? If you had a magic wand, and the product would look and do what you need to do, what would that look like? And from there, they start telling me what they're looking for. And then I'm just giving yes or no answers. Yes, we can do that. No, we can't.
mhm.
And when the marketing has done its job of finding the right person, you find that the ratio of yes to no, it becomes more skewed towards yes, and it looks like the panacea product, because the marketing has done the job of overcoming those objections for you.
And as a salesperson, we we love when we have an educated buyer. And
Mm,
so we also love to know how serious is this buyer, because if they show up to that meeting and they haven't watched any of those videos and they
mhm.
haven't looked at the presentation and they haven't really fully investigated, then we have to ask ourselves, how serious are they? And
Mhm.
that then for us lets us know, what do we need to do to qualify or disqualify this buyer more quickly.
Mhm.
And so I think, to that point, I think companies, I'll say it blunt, that's my personality, is you either can be the one that's educating them and have control over that and have the content you put out, or let them go and pursue whatever education that's out there that might be for, against, or just nothingness of your product, because I think that's the danger, is like if you and I just went right now and we typed in, the category of a periodic, give me the top 8 companies that do this,
Mhm.
we would get a lot of varying top 7, 8 companies details. And oh, we paid for that article. Oh, our competitor paid for that article. So I love what you're saying, because it's actually challenging me right now, challenging Action Lab even,
Mhm.
of saying we've got to put out more content, because our buyer isn't educated on our product, other
Mhm.
than these LinkedIn lives. And
Sure.
I've got to put out more content of Craft and Compel and everything it's doing, because my buyer is going to be educated by someone. Why shouldn't that be me?
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Cool. Well, we want to keep these short.
Yep.
So
Yep.
let's end on that. Really great conversation today. If you are interested in what we do, Chris, why don't you give them a quick 30-second pitch here?
Yeah. So if you know that your performance, your revenue, your engagement would increase by marketing and sales being more aligned, what we do is we create either an event, or we tack on to an event you already have, and we come in and do what we call the Action Lab. We take marketing, we take sales, we take the leadership and the individuals, and we create an environment, a workshop that they actually get to become more aligned in what they're doing. Just like this LinkedIn Live, you heard marketing's perspective, you heard sales perspective. Because now we have context of what the other is doing, we now are stronger together than separate.
That's absolutely right. That's absolutely right. And as all so yeah, if that's something that interests you, go ahead and DM me or Chris. We'll get you set up. And as always, you can tune in to Action Lab Live Wednesdays at 11 Eastern. Go to join.actionlab.live to register. Chris, great talking to you today, and we will see everybody next week.
Peace.